Hey, what's up guys, it's Renaldo here. So this video is going to be a continuation of the video that I made yesterday. And that video specifically focused on a hit piece written by News24 to try and cause damage to Bokkieweek and to try and get sponsors to withdraw so that the event could be cancelled in the foreseeable future. Now, of course, News24 has an agenda that they are serving because, as you will see with this video, News24 is very quick to want to report on cultural events, but they can't have the same outrage on race-based legislation against children in this country. Now, of course, we know that Panyaza Lesufi, who's the premier for Gauteng, he gave his 2 cents after News24 came out with this article calling the event racist, even though it's a cultural event. And then, of course, the Minister of Sport, Gayton McKenzie, came out and called it apartheid nostalgia, which is quite ironic considering the fact that he is the minister with the most racial quotas in the entire world. So you would think that he would shut up about an event that is a cultural event when he is the minister with the most race-based legislation in sport in the entire world. Now, this video is going to focus on why an event like Bokkieweek exists. And if you want to get the full context, I highly recommend that you watch this video first that's popping up over here. You can pause this video, go and watch that video if you haven't yet. And then when you're done with that video, come back and then we will continue now. All right, welcome back. So just to illustrate how evil News24, Panyaza Lesufi, and the Minister of Sport is, I'm now going to do what you would expect mainstream media to do, which is to provide you with all the facts. Because a lot of people are saying, why are the Afrikaners having Bokkieweek? You know, do they just want to now once again have a white-only event? No. They are doing it firstly because it's their culture, and the overwhelming majority of Afrikaners are white individuals. We can't help it. Just like Norway can't help that the overwhelming majority of their population is white and their culture is white. And the same with other white-only cultures. You can't help it. It is what it is. Like, you don't blame a Zulu for being black, and you don't blame a Zulu if they have a traditional or cultural event that comprises 100% of black individuals, because we know Zulu culture is black, we know Xhosa culture is black, we know Venda culture is black. Therefore, Afrikaner culture will be white. Now, initially when Bokkieweek started, it was to create a cultural event for Afrikaners in rugby, hockey, and netball, meaning that Afrikaner children and their families could get together, obviously participate in sport, but then also participate in cultural activities. But over the years, Bokkieweek has transcended into something new. And the reason for that is because of the failure by the government to treat all of its citizens equally. Bokkieweek has in essence become the trials for white children that have been excluded by the government to participate in provincial trials for the different unions. Now, if you think it's not bad, it is terrible, because we all know that apartheid officially ended in 1990, which means that if you were born in 1990, you would be 36 years old. So if you are 36 years or younger, it means that you weren't born during apartheid, and therefore, when the government wants to discriminate against you because of your race or your culture, they realistically can't do it if you were born after apartheid, because you had no hand in apartheid. And yet, even to this day, right now, they are discriminating against children at under 11, under 12, and under 13 and up. That age range, purely because that is what the governing bodies have to say and what the unions have to say when it comes to the quota system that they have in play. Now, let me illustrate to you why it is so important for these events like Bokkieweek to exist in order to give an Afrikaner a chance. Now, before I show this information to you, please be sure to subscribe to this channel. It's absolutely free. It won't cost you anything. Don't forget to smash that like button and share this video if you want more people to know what's actually going on in South Africa. All right, let's have a look. All right, so what I've done here is I've used the biggest sports that children play in South Africa, the unions or the governing body for each, and then the biggest opportunity at trials that they have, and then what the racial quotas are. So with rugby, it's Saru and Sasra, and the biggest trial events is under 13 Craven Week, under 16 Grand Como Week, and under 18 Craven Week. And then if you look here, the race quotas. So out of a squad size of 23, 12 out of the 23 must be players of color. They must be players of color. And the reason I say that is because here are the penalties. Squad overrules by union presidents, merit list change for demographics, coaching management pressure or resignation threats, reputational damage and loss of player opportunities for non-representative teams. These are all things that can happen, right? Now, look at that. 12 out of a 23-man squad needs to be black children. So if, for argument's sake, there's one province where there's not a lot of colored players or black players, and let's say that 19 out of the 23-man squad are white kids, then they just can't be chosen because they have to adhere to these racial quotas. So if you are a young child, 13, I mean, look at that, under 13, a 13-year-old is being discriminated against by this government and by the Minister of Sport. And the Minister of Sport want to tell us that Afrikaners can't have their own cultural events. I mean, this is just absurd. So more than 50% in rugby from under 13 upwards has got a hard line requirement, racial quota that people have to adhere to. And if they don't, then they can face the consequences. Now, when you look at the cricket, you'll see that it's Cricket South Africa, and the biggest trial events are the under 13 and under 15 regional festivals, under 16 and under 19 provincial teams, the Kaya Majola Week, and then the race quotas here for the senior domestic starting 11. Out of a squad of 11, 6 of them have to be players of color, which means it's more than 50%. For school cricket, it is out of a 13 squad, 7 black players, which is more than 50%. And then lower school events, it varies, and it often needs to be at least 2 to 3. So, once again, children are being discriminated against based on the color of their skin, something that they've got no control over. And then, the penalties for non-compliance, point deductions and fines. For example, is Eastern Province Warriors lost points plus 500,000 Rand fine in 2025, and they were eliminated from the knockouts because they didn't field enough black players. So there you can see actual consequences for not adhering to these sickening race quotas. Then you've got disqualification or relegation in school competitions if they don't adhere to it, or the loss of progression opportunities. It's absurd. In hockey, you can see the South African Schools Hockey Association and also the SA Hockey Association. The biggest trial events is SAS Hock Nationals plus regional events for under 12 to under 18 boys and girls, and then also provincial IPTs feeding nationals. And then you can see when it comes to the squads, national under 18, 16 and 14, the team size is 18, and there has to be a minimum of 8 players of color, which is 50%. National under 13, imagine this, 13-year-old children. Imagine telling a 13-year-old child, sorry, it's not that you're not good enough, it's just that you are white. How is that any different than a black parent having to tell their children during apartheid, sorry, you can't play for the Springboks or for the Proteas because you are black? How is this any different? Please enlighten me, especially the Minister of Sport. And also Adrian Basson and News 24. Please tell me. But regional, you can see it's the same thing. It's 16 and it's 8, which is 50%. Regional under 12 and under 13. 14 is the team size. Minimum players of color, 7. And then the penalties. Team placed last in the pool or lock, demotion, relegation from section. Now imagine playing under 12 or under 13 and the Mr. Box ticker there comes and sees that your squad doesn't have the minimum allocated person of color, and then your entire team gets put last in the pool even though it won all its matches. How do you explain that to a 12 and 13-year-old? You can't. Because, hey, that's just how the way it works in this country. Exclusion from future national events. And management must also reflect transformation. Oh, of course. So now, even in the management structures. Then with netball, Netball South Africa, I mean, they just take it to a whole new level. The biggest trial events is the provincial trials for Telkom Netball Championships and the DSTV Schools Netball Challenge and younger provincial championships under 12 to under 17. Look at this. On court, in all levels, meaning youngest to the oldest, right? The typical size of a team is 7. 5 need to be the majority race group, which is black, and then the 2 out of the remaining team can be a colored person or can be a white person. Imagine that. I mean, that is 80%. 80% of the team in netball have to be black. And it's not like, but why? It's just, this is what it is. And if you have anything to say, you're going to be in trouble. And the penalties here is goal deductions, commonly 6 points docked. Altered match results, on-court win can become a log loss. Loss of play-off final qualification. And documented race-based exclusions at provincial school trials. For example, the Gauteng under 12 to under 18 cases. So there's examples of this. So this is what is happening with the major sporting codes. But there is one more, and let me tell you about that over here. Now, when it comes to soccer, you would think, all right, so obviously, all kids in the townships play soccer, they get soccer balls, government funding, the schools allow them to play football, the schools in the townships play football, the kits are sponsored, they have massive corporate sponsorships. So then surely because there is underrepresentation of white and colored kids in soccer, surely then the racial quota must now be flipped around? No, nothing. There's not a single racial quota in soccer to favor colored or white students. Because remember, the whole aspect of the POC, person of color, and racial quotas in sport, specifically for youngsters, is for underrepresented groups to get into those sporting codes. Now, if you look at soccer, it's very clear to see that soccer is not that big under white kids in this country. There are, of course, a majority of people in the colored community that love to play soccer, but most of them also play rugby. So you would think then, following the reason of the unions and the ministers and the ministries, that they want underrepresented racial groups to feature more in the sports that they aren't. So therefore you would think that they would now apply the racial quotas in soccer for white and colored children. But they don't. They don't. So rules for thee, but not for me. When it comes to rugby, hockey, netball, and probably other codes like tennis, etc., their racial codes have to be there, and it have to benefit black players and colored people of color, right? Players of color. But when it comes to soccer, sorry, there's no racial quotas because, hey, we already have enough. We sorted over there. But don't worry, we don't want the white kids and we don't want colored kids really. Keep it, amongst the black kids. I just find it absolutely absurd that when it comes to all the sporting codes, it's expected that racial groups that weren't really participating historically in those sporting codes are forced into it, but they don't apply the same standards when it comes to soccer by forcing at least a requirement for young white and colored kids, to also feature in provincial and national squads. But of course, that is a contradiction. It's not really about getting young black and colored kids, players of color, into the different sporting codes. It's to teach the white South Africans a lesson and to discriminate directly against them. And this is where we are right now. And this is why I would like to personally ask Adrian Basson from News 24 and Minister Gayton McKenzie, what are your takes on the fact that we have all these racial quotas that discriminate against children that had no hand in apartheid? There is not a single child in South Africa today that has any relation to apartheid. Because as I stated, in 1990, apartheid ended, which means that that child would today be 36 years old. So anybody younger than 36 did not benefit from apartheid and didn't live under apartheid. But yet you, as the Minister of Sport, are discriminating against children because of the skin color that they were born into. And Adrian Basson, you are reporting on Bokkieweek, which is just the Afrikaner cultural group doing their own thing, knowing that all these quotas exists with these unions and the governing bodies of these sporting codes. And instead of writing an article on how millions of children are being discriminated against because of their race, you ignore that and you focus on this single event that is a cultural event for Afrikaners. Please tell me how you aren't biased. Please tell me how you do not hate yourself for being an Afrikaner. Adrian Basson, I mean, it says it all. You are an Afrikaner. Now, I'm not sure what your mother or father or grandfather or grandmother did during apartheid. Maybe they were very evil and maybe they benefited insanely from apartheid. But simply thinking that because your parents or grandparents were evil now mean that all Afrikaner parents or grandparents were evil, that's on you. Don't put that on all the other Afrikaners, because we're not as woke leftist as you. We don't feel bad for being Afrikaners, especially when you look at the population today. Most Afrikaners that are alive today are people that were young when apartheid ended, didn't have a direct hand in apartheid, or they were born after apartheid. I just find it absolutely absurd that mainstream media and ministers can gladly report on this cultural event, but they completely ignore discrimination against children in South Africa in 2026. Explain to me, in the most basic of terms, how discriminating against children in 2026 based on the color of their skin is any different to discriminating against young black children during apartheid. I'll wait. Please, Adrian Basson and the Minister of Sport, explain this to me. You are so offended with this cultural event, but you have no problem with everyday discrimination against children. How does that make sense? Well, it doesn't. Because it's all about hating on Afrikaners and ignoring the actual racial discrimination that's taking place every single day in this country. And that's pretty much all I got to say. Thank you so much for tuning in. Please be sure to smash that like button, share this video far and wide. Don't forget to subscribe. It's absolutely free. It won't cost you anything. However, if you'd like to financially contribute to this channel, you can do so by giving a super thanks. Look for the $ below and choose an amount. Or you can become a member to this channel by clicking the join button below, and that comes with its own perks. And that's pretty much all I got to say. Till later, cheers and peace out.
You don't even know me, but every time you see me, you say I wear my massacre. You don't even know me, but every time you see me, you say I wear my massacre. My massacre. You don't even know me, but every time you see me, you say I wear my massacre. My massacre.